In all truth, American boxing has become somewhat of a dictatorship. It really has. Look at these statements here from Bob Arum. These are recent statements. Let me start with Richard Schaefer, actually. 2018, October the 2nd, 2018, Richard Schaefer says, the fans want Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia, not Spence versus Crawford. Now, this is not true. This is very dismissive of what the fans want. And it's quite insulting to the intelligence of real boxing fans that they want to see Mikey, who's never proven himself at the weight class apart from beating the inconsistent Adrian Broner. We've been talking about the Terence Crawford fight at this stage for over a year. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. Only for Richard to come along and say, no, we don't want to see that. What we want to see is Mikey versus Spence. And that's what we're going to give you, and you're going to like it. Then it turns out to be this one-sided fight, anticlimactic as anything. They get in Dallas Stadium for a fight that we knew was not going to be competitive. And then shortly after Shakur Stevenson soundly outpointed Oscar Valdez, Bob Arum came out and said, fuck being the unified champion. He wants Shakur to face opponents with more commercial appeal. And look what he says here. Full title unification in the 130-pound division isn't nearly as important to Bob Arum as it is to Shakur Stevenson. So what's messed up about this? Bob made that statement shortly after Stevenson outpointed Valdez to become WBC, WBO super featherweight champion, unifying both belts. Shortly before that, Shakur said, I want to be undisputed. I want to unify all the belts. But Bob, apparently not concerned with what the fighter wants and what the boxing fans want, just like Richard Schaefer, has vetoed the fight. So they're going to be looking for the likes of Tank, I guess. How does that fight happen, though? Both of them are undefeated. Both of them are supposed stars. So which network and which promotional outfit is going to concede ground and give the other the fight to promote and broadcast? I don't know, is Tank still a free agent? Can Bob get him over there to ESPN and Top Rank? Apparently Tank is staying at TMT. And you know the first thing that's going to come out of Leonard's mouth? Tank is the A-side, he sells pay-per-view, he sells tickets and all this and that. Yeah? Although I read here that Bob is willing to let Shakur go over to Showtime because he's saying he doesn't care if Tank is signed to TMT or not. So he wants to make the fight. But is he really in tune with his fighter Shakur? Is what you have to ask, because Joe Cordina spectacularly knocked out OGAWA for that super featherweight IBF title in Cardiff. And that ignited something in Shakur, who's got two straps in the same weight class. He said, told y'all he's the best fighter at 130 from England. I would love to come to England for some smoke. And he said, champ, congrats at Joe Cordina 91. So Shakur, like a real fighter, wants to unify against his peers in his weight class. That's what boxers want to do. But I have no doubt that Bob's going to see this tweet from Shakur and he's going to shut it down. No, we're not taking that fight either. We're looking for Tank. And who wouldn't watch Tank versus Shakur? And with Bob's obvious vitriol for Eddie Hearn, he probably doesn't want to make that fight between Tank and Cordina. I don't know if Shakur's doing any numbers at the arenas he's fighting in America, but he comes over here, he gets all the superstar treatment he could ever want, sells out the arena. Joe Cordina right now is hot property. Hot property. Eddie had a very good night tonight. Matt from DAZN had a very good night tonight with Zelfa winning the European title and Joe winning the IBF world title at super feather. Both are super featherweights. Great night. Great night. Great night. There was a stage when Bob could bear to be around Eddie for more than 2 seconds. He wanted to make Warrington versus Stevenson and was prepared to send Stevenson over here. He's not going to do that now. So he thinks he can do something with Al Heyman. Al Heyman doesn't like Bob. I don't know if Bob is aware of that after Bob took the lawsuit out on him. But Bob seems like he wants to make the Tank fight with Shakur. But one of the stumbling blocks on trying to make that fight is statements like this from Leonard Ellerby. The fights that we, boxing fans, think are big are not that big. So what is a big fight by his definition? Shakur versus Tank isn't a big fight. The other day he said, you really think that Bob Arum wants to make Lopez versus Tank. Bob doesn't want to make the fight. He doesn't want Lopez to get knocked out. Well, are you 100% sure on that? Have you even tried to make it before you're just writing it off totally? So basically, we don't ask for any fights from promotional companies or networks, and we just take anything they serve up. How is that a good deal or even a fair deal? Literally every opponent Tank has faced since he beat Pedraza has been critiqued. Literally all of them. Leon Walsh, Fonseca, Coelho, Ruiz, Gamboa, Santa Cruz, Barrios, Isaac Cruz, Rolando Romero. So basically, they haven't made one fight that the fans have asked for. They've given the fans what they wanted to give them and said, yo, you're going to be happy with this. We're doing the greatest for Tank. And it's not the truth. Unless outfits like TMT go into UFC mode to give us the best fights, they're going to often have to do cross-promotion fights. There's no other way around it. And of course that's going to be difficult because you've got to negotiate with the promoters and the networks about getting their biggest stars on your network, and they don't want to give up the power. But we expect these guys to be professional and produce the fights. Not every single one we ask for, but there should be a high success rate that we get most of the fights we want to see. As much as he's trying to get people against Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn had his detractors, even if they still hate Eddie, they don't like Leonard. They don't want to hear how Leonard views boxing. You're going to tell us that, oh, it's Bob who doesn't want to make the T.O. Tank fight. A fight that's not as hot as it once was. At the moment, I guess, because T.O. don't have no scraps. But the thing was, he was bigging Bob up for not wanting the fight. Bob's a smart businessman. He's clever in this, that. But then he hates Eddie because Eddie tries to make fights with his fighters. You know, like offering Tank $5 million for a fight that looked winnable against Tevin Farmer. Leonard writes off every cross-promotion suggested to him, reducing every fight down to numbers, stardom, and all these criterias. He never considers the fights that people want to see. He doesn't care. No respect at all for boxing fans. You want to talk about Eddie has blown the budget at the zone, spending billions. Well, what concern is that of mine? Why do I care about that? He's still trying to make more relevant fights than you are. Enough is enough now. If there's a fight that the boxing fans want to see and we want to see it, that's what we want to see. We don't want to hear what you think is big or you telling us what we want to watch. We are in almost perfect symmetry, boxing fans, when there's a hot fight we want to see. Whether it's Crawford versus Spence, Pacquiao versus Mayweather, which, you know, both fights took way too long to make. 5 years for Pacquiao, was it? 4 years and we still haven't seen Crawford versus Spence. And now Devin is undisputed champ. I would like to see that fight. You know, no one could tell Lennon and Floyd who Tank should fight. Nobody. And they would justify not making a Haney fight, a Teofimo Lopez or a Lomachenko fight by saying, oh, Tank can do 270 pay-per-view buys and sell out an arena. These guys don't bring nothing to the table. It's not a big fight. Well, wouldn't the same logic apply to Canelo? What does David Benavidez or Charlo bring to the table? Canelo doesn't need anybody to make a big fight, a way bigger fight than what Gervonta Davis could make. Has a way better resume than Gervonta Davis. But you hear Floyd talking about Canelo should fight Benavidez, but nobody can tell Tank who they should fight. That's a double standard. When you're dealing with cross promotions, there should be one simple rule. If the fight doesn't go to a purse bid, one promoter makes an offer, offers the purse to the rival fighter. Obviously, the broadcaster will be the choice of the promoter who made the biggest bid. And if you don't like the bid and you're the rival promoter, you either come back with a counter offer or you send your fighter over to the other side of the street. Anyone who has any other position, especially if you're a boxing fan, you're a fraud, a fanboy. Not even a fanboy of fighters, just a fanboy of promoters and television networks or apps. You have to keep the principle simple. The boxers take chances in the ring with their health. The promoters have to take chances with their pockets. It's just how it is, right? Unless you're mobbed up and you've got gambling rackets all around the country and you're fixing fights, you've got to take chances. So when Leonard's coming out talking about he's balancing the books and these fights don't make sense, that should be of no interest to you. Unless you have an agenda, you're a media member or a YouTube channel who has an agenda and might be getting something to do some damage control or PR work for the likes of Leonard. All I know is you ain't about no real boxing, though. Got to take chances. This is Leonard again earlier this year about the potential of Gervonta facing Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney. No disrespect, however, the guys that you say are large fights, they are not huge fights. Repeating what he said again recently. Just a couple of different variations in words he used. And this is TBE boxing. Everybody has bought to maintain leveling up, mentioned Ellaby, in sounding like he's speaking code for Tank, persevering to be matched towards no-names, outdated guys, and secondary champions. He says, I'd like to see Tank combat the largest names on the market, and whoever continues to show themselves. However, the guys who they are saying are the perfect guys in the market, like, for example, Devin, Tio, Loma, Garcia. He said he feels Isaac Cruz is healthier than a number of the guys that you are speaking about. The vital points Leonard ignores are, nobody asked for that fight, and the fact that Tank struggled doesn't mean that Isaac Cruz all of a sudden is a top 5 lightweight. It could mean Tank is not what you're trying to hype him up to be. And selling out the Staples Center and the MSG does not compensate for the fact he has a weak resume. And look what else he goes on to say after. We're not going on the market and overpay a fighter simply because y'all say he's an enormous identity fighter. It doesn't work like that. The enterprise doesn't work like that. We're not within the enterprise of fuck off cash like a few of these promoters, mentioned Ellaby, obviously talking about Eddie Hearn. While you dissect what Ellaby is saying, it seems that he's speaking in code that may solely be deciphered to imply that Tank will not be matched towards any of the 4 kings within the lightweight division in 2022. Well, big up Devin Haney and Kambosos. You did it yesterday. You fought for Undisputed. Devin is that dude. You see, he keeps mentioning how much Eddie is blowing at the zone. And is Eddie making mistakes? Yes. Listen, before I carry on, when Eddie signed that deal at the zone and he was talking big that he's going to conquer America, I was like, go Eddie, yes, you know what I mean? Let's go and pillage America. I said categorically that he's not going to conquer America. I predict so much stuff. I said America is going to conspire against him. And what do you have now? Ellaby, Bob Arum, and Lou DiBella all picking apart anything Eddie attempts to do. You could also throw Shelley Finkel, Steven Espinoza in there. I said Eddie is going to need a chaperone, if you like. He's going to need to come behind someone who knows the business. He can't just go in there like Jack the Lad. This ain't London, it's not England. Bob Arum crushed our undisputed heavyweight title fight between AJ and Tyson Fury. He crushed it. After all the work Eddie did with the Saudis to get it over the line, all the way through, all the work Eddie was doing, Eddie's not going to make it. What's Eddie doing? And then the arbitration, which Bob said won't be an issue, became an issue. And there's several other fights, I'm not going to go into it now, that Eddie has tried to make. And the likes of Ellaby and Arum haven't been interested. So basically, they're going to use their war against Eddie not to make certain fights that a lot of boxing fans would have liked to have seen. Leonard Ellaby is now resorting to street talk, violence against Eddie. And let me tell you, this isn't the first time that's happened. All this violence now. Lou DiBella was talking about how Eddie wouldn't survive if he grew up around where we grew up. Like there's some tough guy mobsters now. Lou was talking that shit when the Wilder AJ negotiations were going back and forth. He was talking that shit then ended up losing his job when the PBC made him turn down a deal that he himself thought was too good to be true. Big fraud. When Bob spilt the beans that Jay Prince had Floyd and Leonard roughed up, wasn't so good friends with Bob then, was he? But now, oh yeah, Bob, great promoter. He's smart, he's intelligent. And all of a sudden now, he's best buds with Bob Arum now. The zone is a failure, Eddie Hearn's a failure. Well, if that's their opinion, that's their opinion. But getting rid of Eddie from the American boxing scene is not going to stop boxing fans for asking for cross-promotion fights, unifications, undisputed, etc., etc. It's not going to stop that. Eddie's had a few setbacks. He's had a few setbacks, like losing the undisputed fight to Caleb Plant to the PBC after Canelo accumulated the 3 straps on DAZN. I think that pissed him off. And losing the undisputed fight with Haney and Kambosos after all that investment in Devin Haney has pissed him off. And he's not going to get Devin back. I know Devin and Bill left on amicable terms and said they're going to return, but they're not going back for now. They're not going back. Arum has an undisputed champion. And Eddie's got played. He's got played. But getting rid of Eddie shouldn't be no excuse for the dictatorship that's going on in America. They're still not putting on enough of the fights that should be happening. There was all this talk recently that Crawford is going to fight Spence, but Floyd said, nah, they're not closing in on a deal. This isn't true. No one person has taken control of American boxing single-handedly. It's too big a market. It's too big a landscape. 70s and 80s, it was Arum, it was King. The mob, they had control of it, to be honest. A lot of corruption, gambling rackets, etc., throne fights. The UK is a little different. Smaller market, and Eddie is king over here. Despite what some people want to say, oh, Frank Warren's taken over. No, that's ridiculous. Do you want to go and see the cards that DAZN have put on this year, just with Matchroom alone, compared to BT and Queensbury? Do you want to see it? Do you want to see the list? The nearest rival to Matchroom and DAZN is Sky and Boxer XX, not Frank Warren. We can start there. Frank used to run things. Before Frank, it was the Cartel, and before the Cartel, it was Harry Levine and Jack Solomons. Jack Solomons, obviously the first big major promoter over here. So this is a territory that one individual can be the king of, have control over. Not total control, because there's other promoters, obviously. But, Eddie was never going to be king over there. But he has a strong body of work across the pond. How long has Arum been doing it? Arum's been doing it from the 60s. Eddie still promotes Canelo. Canelo's still the biggest draw over there. And Bob Arum doesn't have Eddie's resume in the UK that Eddie has in the US. He doesn't. Neither does Al Heyman. Go look at Al Heyman's ITV boxing sports deal in the UK and how long that lasted. The only global promoter out there is Eddie. I'm guessing it's mostly PBC fans. They like to tell everybody how Joshua's not big in America. But when he was looking for a coach, every coach in America was applying for the job, wanting the gig. Doesn't sound like he's that unpopular to me. And all I know is yesterday, Cardiff and Wells exploded onto the market with that Joe Cordina performance. One of the best knockouts. DAZN pulled out all the stops to get this fight in the UK, give home territory to Joe. And I thought I had a grasp on what I was watching, and I realized I didn't. First round, Joe boxed well. And then he got caught with about 3 punches on the bounce. And I'm thinking, Joe, move your fucking feet and get out of there. That's what I was thinking. And in the slow motion, you see OGAWA land a left hook. And Joe felt it. He wasn't hurt, but he felt it. Little reaction in the legs and, good shot. Second round, I realized, Joe is not moving as much as a lot of people thought he was going to be. He's not. And he's deliberately doing so. It's not like he's been cornered and the ring's been cut off and he's forced to fight. No. He's taking charge of this situation. And beforehand, he said, I'm going to have to do something different to what I did in my career to win this fight. And you see that talk there? That is what you call big boy boxing talk. Big man boxing talk. You see when people were saying, Tyson can't do this against Wilder, you can't box an aggressive fight. There is no can't. If you want to make it at championship level, win titles, defend titles, you will often be required to come out of your comfort zone. If you do all the things that your opponent expects you to do, well, what the fuck? If you got all that tape, they can just be prepared for you because they know what's coming. He's not running. He's not running, though.
Yeah, just little steps and keep popping that jab. Why pose? No need to pose. Just keep popping that jab. Make the old man work it out.
I thought he'd be using more movement, but...
Ooh, there's that right hand to the body again.
He's looking for that right uppercut now.
Yeah.
Big wide punch. Okay. He's fighting him inside as well, Joe. Which he'll have to do it from time to time.
Yeah, threw a right hand of his own to Ogawa's body in the clinch.
and he caught Ogawa off guard, didn't he? Ogawa probably thought, Joe ain't got a lot of stoppages, doesn't have that much experience. I can afford to fence with him because he's not going to get too aggressive. And he started fencing with Joe, which ain't really Ogawa's strong suit to go to. And when he started fencing, Joe fainted like he was going to throw a left. And then when that right hand clattered into the side of his jaw, over, one of the best knockouts I've seen in a British ring. One of the best. The execution was just excellent. You got to give Tony Sims his props. Have to give him his props. I was very interested in this show. Like I said, I was the only British uploader I know in my subscriptions list who went live on this. I was very interested in this show. I wasn't sure if Joe could win this. In fact, I had Ogawa the favourite. I said, Joe's got a shot, but I can't pick against Ogawa for this one. And you had Zelfa Barrett fighting for the European title at Super Feather as well. And I was thinking, one of them's going to lose tonight. One of them's going to lose, at least. And now both boys came through. Zelfa put on an excellent boxing display. Excellent boxing display. Probably his best to date. You know, styles make fights. And listen, this is the most unpredictable, brilliant sport ever. I watched Zelfa Barrett perform, and I made a point of watching Joe Cordina against the same opponent that Zelfa was boxing for that European title, Corbinov. And let me tell you this, that Cordina-Corbinov fight could have been a draw. And if it wasn't on home territory, Corbinov could have got it. Yeah. And Zelfa done a better job than Cordina. And after Zelfa won the European title, great achievement, great achievement. I was thinking Zelfa's weapons, like his left uppercut and that right cross, which he's obviously been working pretty hard on, looked like a good weapon, kept Corbinov under manners like Cordina couldn't. And all I was thinking is that Zelfa is the better offensive fighter. He's got more power. He's got more weapons than Joe. And then Joe outshines everybody and scores a one-round knockout over Ogawa.
Oh, what a shot! How's he let? Oh my God! Joe! 1 round! Oh my God! It's over! It's over!
First round is pivotal. And this was the worst possible round George Kambosos could have had. The worst. It would have been better if Devin Haney floored him 3 times in the first round. That would have been a better round for Kambosos. This first round was shocking. 41,000 people. 41,000 people filled into that stadium. And for the majority, it's a pro-Kambosos crowd. And he has the worst round possible. It's not Hagler versus Hearns. This crowd is amped up. And you haven't given them Hagler versus Hearns first round. It's an innocuous sparring session, which is perfect for Devin, Yoel Judah, and Devin's dad. Perfect. Where you got this hostile crowd, and we get a first round like that? An innocuous sparring session, which Devin is able to pop you with jabs like that, and box at his own pace. Beautiful. Beautiful. So the crowd was never a factor for Devin in this. Never was. Horrible round. Not that he was totally outclassed or anything, but he lost the round behind a jab, and it was just a quiet round. Nah, you needed to ramp up and amp up that blood clot arena. That's what you needed to do. And he didn't do it. He didn't do it. You could argue whether Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao, but he took Manny out of his comfort zone from early. I can't remember if it was the first round or not, to be honest. Took him out of his comfort zone. And the same when Victor Callejas, an excellent fighter, went over there and fought Jeff Fenech. Took him out of his comfort zone. Shown no respect at all. It was horrible, actually, watching one of your favorite fighters just get manhandled with no respect at all. And we didn't get that from Kambosos. He tried to box with the boxer. Just like Teofimo got his tactics wrong with Kambosos, he's got his wrong here with Devin. Let me repeat. First round, it would have been better if Kambosos hit the deck a couple of times, went back to the corner, and they had to wake him up. Wake up! Your tires are on the line. What's the matter with you? Shake him up, because they needed shaking up in there. 8-5 connect advantage for Devin Haney first round. And Devin starts the second, and the camera angle where I'm watching the fight, that jab is so straight, accurate like a lance. Kambosos, he missed the weight by a couple of ounces. He came back later and made the weight, but did the whole weight making process take it out of him because he looked lackluster in there. The few punches he threw, he was just totally out of range, and long rights he was throwing which were never going to land. Or was he just out of his depth? I picked Devin to win. I always thought Devin was going to win this fight. I think the rematch will be harder. Third round, Devin's getting off combinations, little short check hooks, left hand working beautifully, not concussive punches, but all landing. Now, if George Kambosos could cut and paste this fight, he needs to take that first round out and replace it with the fourth round. Because now, you know, he's throwing a lot of hooks, caught Devin a couple of times, and still a swing round, but this was way more of the animated fighter that the crowd needed to see come out as unified champion. And this was his best round so far. Kambosos just looks tense. He's trying to get the upper body movement going, but Devin is just effortless. You know, when Devin bends from the waist to mess up the trajectory of Kambosos' shots, it's just effortless right now. A lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Back to the jab again, the jab again, back to the jab again, the jab again, back to the jab again. I tell you what, the way he's boxing and jabbing and moving, the Muhammad Ali-esque kind of look. Yeah, I said it. Not taking it back. And there's no better lightweight right now, and he's on the big stage showing it. Technically, there's no better lightweight than Devin. Kambosos is trying to make it rough, throwing his forearm in Devin's face. But it's desperation now, you know, like Devin, he can throw the jab singular, coming forward, moving away, do all types of party tricks, and the fight is being fought at his tempo. His corner urged him to throw the right hand behind the jab more. I guess they want to punctuate these rounds because they are away from home, but unless some real sinister corruption is going on there, there's no way he loses this one. 8th round, the crowd are roaring, they're trying to push their man on, and Kambosos is trying to up the tempo, but the jabs are doubling up in his face. You know, like early there was the jab to the head and then to the body, and Devin's just got the kid mastered right now. He's got him mastered. 9th round, minus the jab, Kambosos is holding his own in power shots landing, but the jab is just a constant in George Kambosos' face. Devin lost his shape a little in the 10th. I would give that to Kambosos, just roughhouse, swinging Devin around a little and getting off a little more with his shots. But at this juncture here, I'm going to stop breaking down the whole thing. One-sided boxing lesson. Not the most exciting spectacle for an undisputed fight, but the class gap between the two was evident, and Kambosos could do nothing about it. It's as simple as that. I think the rematch will be a bit tougher. They'll make some adjustments, but Devin wins that as well. He wins that.
Yeah, I mean, I said when you came up with, you know, the Jack Johnson did this many years ago. I said that history repeats itself. Many years from now, you know, a young kid gonna come up and he's gonna be looking at this fight, and he's gonna have to go across the pond wherever and try to make history. And that's what I did today. And I just want to inspire people, you know, the fighters today, the fighters in the past, coming up, whatever, to bet on yourself, because that's truly what I did. I trusted in my skill, no matter, you know, who it was in the corner. I knew that I could win the fight.
Will Kambosos ever scale the heights again? Can't write him off totally. I won't do that to him. He needs to take a little time out. He's got a rematch clause, obviously, and then just go back in and prep for it and go for it again. I don't see Eddie getting his clutches into Devin anytime soon. All is fair in love and war. All is fair in love and war. Bobby's targeting Devin to face Lomachenko. Massive fight. You see, these are the type of fights that the PBC are not providing for Tank. You know, like at 154 with Jamel, you can get away with in-house fights. They had the gene pool that he could still achieve undisputed. Or, you know, at welter you got Spence to 3 scraps, but there's still a 4th one out there, and Terence Crawford holds that. So, as much as you guys think, oh, you're an Eddie Hearn fan, like I said, I predicted Eddie not to take over America. He's going to be successful in America. He's going to be very successful. But Top Rank is not a bad home for Devin Haney. It's not a bad home. Aram has done some horrible work for some fighters, but I think it will work for Devin. I mean, there's a lot of work there. You got Lomachenko, Teo, Shakur. There's a lot of work there. And, hey, now it's going to heat up at 135. It's got an undisputed champion now. And look, Lou DiBella is going to try and go and put up a case for a rematch. I know they've got a rematch clause, but Kambosos wasn't a big star, a global star or anything like that. And he's going to be pushing it to enforce an immediate rematch. Now, it might be legally binding, but people have got to want to see the fight. They've got to want to see it. There's great fights out there for George Kambosos. Just not a Haney rematch. I just don't really see the value in it. And I know a lot of people are going to probably reply, you're not saying the same thing about Anthony Joshua's rematch clause with Usyk. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I think there's more of an interest to see if AJ can do better in the rematch, though, than he did in the first fight. Than they want to see Kambosos trying to improve on yesterday's performance. 23 years of age, undisputed lightweight champion. Legacy sealed. Leonard Ellaby, Tank Davis, Floyd Mayweather. Take note. All eyes on Tevin. To all the people saying Beats doesn't like American boxing, incorrect. This is what I expect from American boxers. 23 years of age. Even if his daddy couldn't be at the ringside in his corner with him, he was still going through with it, looking to beat Kambosos' ass. He went over to Australia. He fought in Mexico when he was a kid, when he was too young to get licensed in America. Now he's undisputed champion. Please, let anyone badmouth Devin in front of Beats, and you'll hear all about it. My type of fighter. I'm not going to get into his promotional situation and what some of the stuff that Aram and that fuckboy Lou did, but I fucking hate Lou. Lou pretends to be a liberal and he's a piece of fucking scumbag shit. Some of the stuff they did contractually that Devin had to comply to, not feeling it. But he's now set a template. He set a template. He wasn't waiting for DAZN or Eddie to make opportunities. If he could have done the undisputed thing with Eddie, he would have. But yo, Bob's the next best thing. We'll do that. Didn't wait around. He represents hashtag fan PR to the fullest. Fights against networks. Politics removed. His trainer couldn't go out there, Ben Davis, and then his dad. He was still going to go through with it. Change promoter, change contract situation. I want to be undisputed champion. I don't feel that ambition and that assertiveness from Tank. I'm trying not to, because I like Tank. I don't want to be disrespectful. But he's walking around with that eliminator belt, and they're not world title fights. Technically, they're not world title fights. That's what a lot of people, especially the PBC fan base, are not getting. They're not really world title fights. It's a belt that works towards a world title fight. And I tell you what, man, I hope Leonard's constitution is strong. Because if you're going to keep trying to play down how important fighting good opposition is, as opposed to how much Twitter followers and the 200,000 pay-per-view buys he's doing, trying to use Eddie Hearn as a scapegoat for the mediocrity they're producing over there, he's going to have a lot of sleepless nights. And I can't say I feel sorry for him.